Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why do I actually do the things I do? I mean, really, why get out of bed, go to work, or even just recycle a plastic bottle? Today, we're going to unpack a really powerful mental model that goes way beyond a simple yes or no answer, and it'll give you a whole new way to understand what really drives you. So, first things first, we have to tackle a huge misunderstanding about how motivation actually works. It's a myth that, honestly, most of us have bought into at some point, and it might just be holding you back.
Just think about it for a second. When you talk about your desire to do something, maybe like hitting the gym, you probably say something like, I'm so motivated today, or I'm just not motivated at all. We tend to see it as a black or white thing, right?
But here's the thing. That's the myth. Motivation is not an on-off switch. The reality is that it's a spectrum. It's got all these different shades and qualities. So it's not about if you have motivation, it's about the kind of motivation you have. And getting your head around that difference, well, that's the key to everything.
Okay, so if it's not an on-off switch, then what is it? Well, to understand this whole spectrum idea, we can start by breaking motivation down into three big categories. These come from a really solid psychological framework called self-determination theory.
So on one end of the spectrum, you've got intrinsic motivation. This is when you do something just because you absolutely love it, like playing an instrument or getting lost in a good book. On the total opposite end, there's amotivation, which is just a complete lack of any reason to act. But the really juicy part is all that space in the middle. Extrinsic motivation. This is basically everything we do for some kind of external reason. And believe me, that's where the real magic of this spectrum lies.
You see, extrinsic motivation isn't just one thing. It's this whole continuum that ranges from feeling totally controlled by outside forces, all the way to feeling completely in charge of your own actions. This right here is the heart of what we're talking about today.
To make this super clear, let's follow one simple, everyday behavior across the spectrum: recycling. As we go, I want you to pay close attention to how the why behind the action changes, because that's what changes the quality of the motivation itself. So at the far controlled end of the spectrum, we have what's called external regulation. Here, you're only recycling to get something, like a reward, or to avoid something, like a punishment. If the city suddenly stopped fining you for not recycling, poof, this motivation would disappear in a heartbeat. It's super fragile because the reason for doing it is completely outside of it.
Okay, now let's take one small step inward. This is introjected regulation. The pressure isn't a fine from the city anymore. Now it's a nagging voice inside your own head. You recycle because you'd feel guilty if you didn't, or maybe to make yourself feel like a good person. It's like you've swallowed the rule, but you haven't really digested it. It still feels like pressure.
And right here, this is the crucial turning point. This is identified regulation, where you cross over from being controlled to becoming autonomous. You're not doing it to avoid guilt anymore. You're recycling because you, personally, have decided that it's important. You actually value it. See the difference? It's huge.
Finally, at the highest, most autonomous end of extrinsic motivation, we have integrated regulation. This is where the behavior isn't just something you think is important, it's become a part of who you are. It's a natural expression of your identity. You don't just value recycling, you see yourself as the kind of person who is environmentally conscious.
And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? When your motivation is fully integrated, the action just flows. It's a natural extension of who you are. There's no internal battle, no feeling of being forced. It's just you being you.
So, if we lay this whole journey out, you can really see that clear progression. We move from being controlled by things outside of us, or by internal pressures like guilt, all the way to being autonomous, where our actions are driven by what's important to us, by our identity, and finally by just the pure fun of it.
Okay, so this is a fantastic framework, but how does it actually work in the real world? How do we move ourselves from that controlled side of the spectrum over to the autonomous side? What's the fuel for this internal engine of ours?
To put it another way, what's the psychological secret sauce that helps us take an external value, like recycling, and make it something we truly own?
Well, the theory suggests that the answer comes down to satisfying three universal, basic psychological needs. First, autonomy, that feeling that we have a choice and we're in control. Second, competence, the feeling that we're good at what we're doing. And third, relatedness, that feeling of connection to other people.
So think about it. When our environment, whether it's our boss at work, our teachers, our family, when it supports these three needs, when it gives us choices, helps us feel capable, and makes us feel connected, we are so much more likely to take on those values for ourselves and develop that high-quality, long-lasting, autonomous motivation. All right, so what's the big payoff here? Why should we even care about shifting our motivation along this spectrum? What is the real-world advantage of being more autonomous?
Well, you should know. This isn't just some new idea someone cooked up last week. This is a theory that has been put to the test again and again by researchers for over 35 years. And the results? They're incredibly consistent. And the data is just crystal clear. When your motivation is more autonomous, you stick with things longer. Your performance isn't just done, it's done better. And maybe most importantly, your overall psychological well-being, your happiness is significantly higher. It really, really pays to be autonomous.
So, what this all boils down to is pretty simple but powerful. This isn't just some abstract theory, it's a practical roadmap. By understanding the quality of your motivation, you can start to actively improve it. And that leads to better results and, honestly, a fundamentally higher quality of life. And that brings us to one last question, and this one's for you to think about. Pick a big area of your life, your job, your health, your studies. Where on the spectrum is your motivation coming from? Is it driven by external pressure, by guilt, or is it coming from a place of genuine personal value and a true sense of who you are? Where on the spectrum are you living right now,